It's an all-new episode of Voices in the Game. Hello, everybody. We are so happy you are joining us for another episode wherever you are watching or listening. Now, when I do the introduction for our guest on today's episode, this is 1000% true. This young man is one of the top up-and-comers in all of the sports industry. He just wrapped up his undergrad at Mercyhurst University, graduating with a degree in sports business management in the spring, and he is currently still at Mercyhurst pursuing a Master's of Science in Organizational Leadership. And not only do I have the honor and the privilege to call him a coworker, I also have the honor of calling him a friend. He is Mr. Jay Tonks. Jay, thank you so much for joining me, my friend. I'm so excited for our episode.
Thank you for having me on and for the great intro, Colton. It's an honor, truly.
Oh, yes, of course. Yeah, the pleasure is all mine, Jay. Oh, and also, I also forgot to mention, so on top of Jay being a grad student, he is also the sports information director for Mercyhurst men's and women's hockey, men's soccer, softball, and squash. So I would love to get started, Jay, about your journey first into the sports industry because it's a little different, I think, compared to some others because you did not begin your collegiate time at Mercyhurst wanting to pursue a career in sports.
Yeah, so I actually was a forensic science major. When I played soccer at Mercyhurst Prep right up the hill, I was really fascinated with forensic science, and I took an elective there at Mercyhurst Prep in forensic science, took anatomy. I was all set, got accepted, everything. I started my first 3 semesters with pursuing forensic science, taking biology and anatomy classes. And then I just realized I really wasn't interested in it that much anymore. I got invited to a cadaver lab, and I didn't really want to do that for the rest of my life and work with that kind of work. And it's a tremendous program at Mercyhurst, but I wanted something different. And the sport business management degree at Mercyhurst came across me. I had an advisor, John Parente. He's an area coaches at a Harbor Creek High School near Mercyhurst soccer. And he was advising me and helped me out. And I ended up switching my major. I took some business classes that fall of my sophomore year. And then it was in the spring when I really started to develop a passion for working in the sport industry. I had to have 50 volunteer hours in the athletic department as a part of my coursework in the first year. And I was kind of doing, those smaller tasks where you're, working a camera, maybe finding assists at a hockey game or tracking subs for stats at a basketball game, just kind of dipping my feet in the water. But it was in March when I was working a lacrosse game. I think I was going to do ball replace or something small like to get hours. And we didn't have a public address announcer for the game. And I mentioned it to the GA. I was like, oh, like, that'd be cool. I'll do it. And he was like, oh, I don't know if we should have a student volunteering to do this. Are you sure? Are you sure? And I was like, sure, why not? Like I've always wanted to do that. I've always in the back of my mind was like, oh, it'd be really cool to announce at a sporting event. And I'd never done it before in any capacity. And they let me do it that game. And after the game, everybody in the press box said, this was your first time doing that. You are a natural at public address announcing. You should come back and do all the games. And I had mentioned something to the assistant athletic director at the time and said, when I'm done with my volunteer hours, can I do this full time and get paid? And he said, absolutely. So they ended up hiring me on as a student worker, making whatever the base salary or base pay was at the time hourly. And it was awesome. That semester was amazing because I really was dipping my feet into what it was like to work in the sport industry. And I was public address announcing. And then they realized that I am a hard worker. I thrive in stressful environments like that and will always work hard. And nothing really gets to me like that. And they were like, oh, like we should teach you some other things. So they were teaching me live stats, NCAA live stats for soccer because I said, hey, I'm a soccer guy. Like I love the sport. Didn't play at Mercyhurst, but I love the sport. And I started learning live stats for soccer. And then all of a sudden I was learning it for hockey and other sports. And I was just kind of doing all the sport information and communication stuff that I never realized that I enjoyed and was good at. But that was just the beginning of my journey so far, Colton. I didn't know if you had any other questions related to that. I just kind of went on a tangent there.
Oh no, yeah, no worries, Jay. Actually, I owe you an apology because I accidentally said one of your sports incorrectly. Stunt, not squash. I don't know why I did that. So, but yeah.
Oh, yeah, you're good. I don't want to correct you. It was a good intro. I loved it.
Oh no, yeah, no, yeah, oh no, of course, Shane. The pleasure is all mine, my friend. And so, why did you decide to want to volunteer in the athletics department in the first place when you did start out, knowing that you didn't have any intentions of going into the sports industry when you did go to Mercyhurst?
So like I said, I had to volunteer and have 50 hours of volunteer hours in the athletic department as a part of the sport management requirements. But I wanted to work and kind of get a different kind of experience because I didn't know what it was like to have a sport management degree or really what that meant, what careers I could have. Because I just thought, oh, does this mean I'm going to be a manager of a team? Like I didn't really know what. And college athletics is just a crazy landscape. I've learned that I learned that from the first year I was volunteering, and now that I've really been involved in it as a graduate assistant and everything else, we'll get to some other things that I've done later too. But it just seems like it's an environment that I thrive in because you have to have passion, and that's one thing is that I'm very passionate about the things that I do, and passionate about Mercyhurst too, and I wanted to get involved. Because in high school I wasn't really involved. I played soccer, and that was really it. I went and hung out with my friends on the weekend. I didn't join any clubs. I didn't really do a lot of extra things, and I wanted to change that when I got to college. And that was just the start. Was the sophomore year volunteering in the athletic department.
And when you did step into the broadcast booth for the first time for that lacrosse game, did you have any experience doing public address announcing before? And why do you think you did so well, knowing it was your first time and everybody applauded you for the job that you did?
That's a great question. So I didn't have any experience with public address announcing. Thankfully, we they were developing good scripts at the time, so I could follow along. But I think I just have always I'll mess around with my friends before that, like making that announcer voice, like the enthusiastic announcer voice. And when I'm watching games, it's like I have that like analysis part of my brain where I watch games in a different way than some other people do. And I feel like there's things that I might say before a broadcaster even says it. With public address announcing is my family always thinks I'm really quiet. I like not now, but when I was younger, they thought I was quiet, and then they heard I was doing that, and they're like, "I didn't know your voice could. I didn't know you could project your voice like that. I didn't know you could be that loud." And I like to make a joke because my grandmother's side of the family is very Italian, and I didn't get any of those genes at all. I'm a lot taller than all of them at the family reunions. I have light hair, like my mom was a redhead. And but the one thing that that Italian family has is they are all very loud. If there's three conversations going on at once, it's very chaotic at our family reunions, and I love my family. But I feel like I did get that gene as I can yell enthusiastically, and it's not like a scary yell, like someone yelling at a kid or anything like that. It's just like I have that loud voice when I need to, and that helped me project my voice when I needed to for announcing. But one thing that I noticed right away, and I guess this was a little natural, and I didn't realize it until I was training somebody, is voice inflection is so important when you're public address announcing, especially with Mercyhurst Lakers, because there's a lot of syllables there. And I found myself saying like for example, we'll say a hockey game, like welcome to the ice, like your Mercyhurst Lakers, like putting the emphasis on the your and then like Mercyhurst. That kind of voice inflection. Nobody ever taught me that. Which is just it was I couldn't believe I was doing it when I first was doing it for lacrosse because I wasn't taught how to do those types of things. And I found myself listening to other public address announcers at schools when I'd go and watch other sporting events or high school games, and college ones too, as I listened to how they do it and kind of just adapted, and I became pretty good at it.
Yeah, that's awesome, Jay. And how was that like when you first started to go through the ropes overall on what it takes and how it works to work in a college athletics department like Mercyhurst?
That's another good question. So getting used to working in a college athletic department, you have to get used to, sometimes long hours or odd hours. It's not 9 to 5 Monday through Friday. You're going to have a hockey game at 7 o'clock on a Friday night. You're going to have a soccer game at 1 o'clock on a Sunday. And for some people that doesn't work. And for me, is I love sporting events. And when I was a student worker, it was the greatest thing for me, and it still is, but it was the greatest thing because I was getting paid to watch a soccer game, to watch a hockey game. Like the sports that I was sitting watching on my couch as a kid is now it's like this is my job is I'm live statting, I'm announcing, I'm broadcasting, or anything else that I was doing, even working a camera. It was like it was just cool that I could make money watching sports, and I love the environment around sports. And going back to when I changed my major, is the way I was looking at it is sometimes when you're in forensic science, you could be working with dead people, or you're working in situations that are a little sad. Whereas with sports, it's an exciting environment. You know, even if your team's losing, you might have a chance. A soccer ball hits the post, a hockey puck hits the pipe, and the crowd goes like, "Oh!" Like everybody's into it. And I love that about sports is that everybody's passionate about what they're doing and wanting to work. And it can be a grind, but it's very rewarding, especially when your team wins. And we can get into talking about hockey later, but our women's hockey team is ranked number 13 in the nation as of today and yesterday in both the USCHO and the USA Hockey polls. And it's just amazing for me because I'm a grad student, and most of the other SIDs that I work with and I communicate with on a week-to-week basis, those are all full-time employees. And I'm just super grateful that there's 45 Division I women's hockey teams, and I get to cover number 13 in the nation here in Erie, Pennsylvania. I'm just super grateful for that. And I get to cover our men's team as well. I never thought I'd have both or even just one. And to be able to do that as a grad assistant is it's just really sparked my passion for working in sports. And even going back to hockey too, is before I came to Mercyhurst, I grew up a Penguins fan. I'm a big Pittsburgh sports fan, but I didn't watch hockey a lot. I would watch hockey. The Penguins were good when they won those back-to-back Stanley Cups, and I was a big Sidney Crosby fan. But I didn't really know a lot of the rules about hockey before I came to Mercyhurst. It wasn't my big sport. Is I watched soccer and football and occasionally baseball, but I didn't watch a lot of hockey growing up. Then I came to Mercyhurst and I went to some games my freshman year. But once I started working sophomore and junior year, I was like, this is a really exciting sport. It's fast paced. I'm a big soccer fan. A lot of my friends that aren't tell me, how do you watch soccer? It's so boring. And I played, and I find I have a passion with that. But hockey is it's exciting. I listen to you Colton on hockey broadcasts, and one of my good friends I graduated with, Tim Quinn, and I forget the name of the Penguins announcer right now, but I just love the enthusiastic hockey announcers because there is a lot of action in that sport, and it just keeps me excited for all 60 minutes and for all three periods. So I think just going back to your question is the passion that I've developed working in sports is it's really rewarding, especially when teams are winning, when the athletes are happy, the coaches are happy. It's really rewarding for me.
Yeah, that's awesome, Jay. We will definitely have a long discussion about Mercyhurst hockey in just a little bit. But just another question that came to my mind was going back to when you did decide to switch your major, was there any fear or anything like that, knowing you were entering into a completely different world? And did you have a chance to speak to anybody like in the athletic department or like your advisors, to see like what can I do if I decide to change my major and pursue a career in the sports industry?
Yeah, there was a lot of uncertainty at the time because I wasn't sure when I was forensic science, I was like, okay, I'm going to be a forensic scientist. I'm going to be a lab technician. I knew those jobs. When I was switching into this to be a sport business management major, I didn't really know what careers were out there for that. And I didn't know what the job market was like for it either. I didn't know a lot of those things. And my advisor, John Parente, was very, very helpful in kind of guiding me and was saying like, hey, like we can figure this out for you. Like you should start out with college athletics and then maybe find an internship down the road. And when I was telling you about my story, when I started public address announcing, and I had mentioned to the one assistant athletic director, and then it was our sport information director at the time, they both were encouraging me to keep taking advantage of all the opportunities. And that's one thing that I even tell students now and student workers now, and like in their undergrad, is to just take advantage of every opportunity you can. If somebody wants to train you to produce a basketball game, to hold a camera here, is people notice work ethic, and the ones that are constantly showing up are the ones that make it, I think, are going to make it far in the industry. Obviously, I'm not very far yet.
You
But
will be.
that to go back to your question, thank you. I appreciate that. But yeah, the work ethic was definitely contributing to me as I try not, I'm big on living in the moment and being present in the opportunities. And I do think ahead and I do think about careers down the road and think about what life could look like in 5 to 10 years. But I try to focus on what's going on now. And at the time, as that's what I was doing, I was like, okay, I'm just going to go through these classes and hopefully down the line, I'm going to figure it out. And I've started to figure it out a little more, which is great. But um, so you were talking about how I'm pursuing my master's degree too, and this ties into it. So my junior semester in the fall, right before that, I was encouraged to join a 4+1 program for a master's degree. It was like, oh, you can start this now and just finish in one extra year. At the time, I was like, oh, like more schooling. It was like I had just gotten over the grueling work of being a STEM major in forensic science. I was transitioning to business, and I was like, I was not thinking about a master's degree. I was just focused on getting a bachelor's, and I had good grades. But then when I started that, it was really eye-opening because it was like, wait, what am I going to do in this extra year? And the sport information director at the time, his name was Jesse Hall at Mercyhurst. He was like, well, you could be a grad assistant in athletics. And I was like, oh, I didn't think of that. And at the time, tuition was being covered completely too. And I was like, wait, so I can get my schooling paid for and I could work in athletics and get a master's degree in just an extra year. I was like, sign me up. So I was taking one class at a time. And then this grad year came faster than I knew it. And it's been great because the work that I'm doing in athletic communications, it's a lot of work. And you mentioned the 5 sports that I cover, and covering hockey teams as prestigious as they are too is a lot of work. But because of this +1 year, I took 2 classes last fall and I'm in one class right now. Whereas some of the other GAs might be taking 4 classes, 3 classes, their workload is they may be on their computer all day doing SID type of work. And then they have to go on their computer later in the day and work on schoolwork. And it's not that I don't have to do that, but I don't have nearly as much work because I already did a lot of that by doing the 4+1. I took some classes over the summer too. And it's just been great to be able to kind of speed run a master's degree while I'm doing well in the master's program. I love it too. But kind of that balance, which we'll talk about later too, is I've been doing really well with that.
Yeah, that was actually my next question, Jay. How was
I
that like
figured.
when you were undergrad, knowing that you obviously had a lot more classes? How was that like for you juggling classes and also at the same time working in the athletics department? Because I felt that when I was in school too, just having to try to find that balance to make sure also that you're taking care of yourself and trying to at least get some sleep. Because like you, when I was an undergrad at Point Park University, had to do classes, and then I was usually calling a game at night, and then tried to fill in some time for
Mhm.
homework, and not really much hours of sleep in the night.
Yeah. Um, Honestly, it's really crazy how I managed to do everything that I've done, and I've done a lot of reflecting, looking back on it. And I'm I'm a super humble person and don't like to brag about anything. But my senior year, I was vice president of the ambassador organization at Mercier. So they're the ones that give campus tours, and I used to give campus tours before it was that. I was working in the athletic department. So at the time, we had lost our main sport information director who left campus, and then our assistant athletic director got a new job as well. So our communications department from I'd say December of 2024 to May of 2025 was run by 2 assistant directors, 3 GAs, and me. And I was honestly working just as much as all of them. It was crazy. And I was doing that. So I was logging about 20 hours a week or so as a student worker. And I loved it. I was essentially a graduate assistant of athletic communications, which is what I'm doing now. But I got sued as a student and it was great. And I enjoy that experience. But I was doing both of those things. And then I was finishing my senior year as a business major. So I had some hard classes, managerial economics, business policy. Those are both difficult and the professors were great, but I made it through those. But to cap it all off, is I was president of Mercier Student Government. So my Outlook calendar was insane, but I'm really grateful for that for Outlook. And a lot of people don't like it, but I loved it because everything that I did was in that calendar. And I was sharing it with people when I was leading student government and working in athletics. And I still had all A's and B's. I don't even remember what my cumulative GPA was, but it was over 3.5. I was doing well, and I don't know how I was juggling it all. But I think because I had all those things at once, it was allowing me to focus on each of them individually, if that makes any sense. So to put that in like other words is I knew I could get all of it done and I knew I had to get all of it done. So it allowed me to stay focused on each at a time. Because it was like, okay, I'm gonna be in class from, I don't know, let's say 12 to 12:50. And then we might have a lacrosse game at 2. And I public address announce that, sure, I'll be there at 1. I already looked up the names of the rosters the night before because that's just how my brain works. Make sure I can pronounce them all. And then, all right, I'm going to do my homework from here, go eat dinner with my roommates at 6 or something. Like I had everything planned out and it was great. I don't know how I juggled all of it. And I was probably only I can only name a couple times where I was really, really stressed and was like, I'm not sure how I'm gonna get this done. Like I just and what surprises people is that I'm really, really big on 8 hours of sleep, maybe seven, but 8 hours of sleep is even like right now, like 11 to 7, 12 to 8 are my prime times. Get up and go to the gym is everything's structured. I guess I've just always been that way, and my parents don't believe it. No one, they don't know how I did it all, but my senior year was amazing because on the weekends is I still had a great time. I still was hanging out with friends, going out. Like I was when I it's hard during hockey season, of course, because Fridays and Saturday nights are all booked up. And I wasn't working every single game last year as I am now, but that was hard. But there's time, is what I always tell people, is if you can schedule a allotted time, even if you need to schedule an hour in the afternoon to take a nap, like write it down, put it in a calendar. There's always time to do things. And a lot of people say like I'm too busy to do that. And sometimes they're lying, or they just they're not managing their time well. And that's like the biggest lesson I've learned working in both the sport industry and balancing everything as being a student and student government president, and everything that I was doing is time management was the biggest thing that I learned. And it's going to help me so far. It's going to take me so far, and help me so much in whatever career I end up in and whatever path I choose. It's already helping me now with the work that I've been doing. Because like I said, I am a grad student and I'm trying to keep up with my schoolwork, and I have been. I got A's last semester too, while covering. It's not really everyone's crossover season. So October and February for sport information departments to me are the busiest months because in October, I mean, women's hockey for me started in September, so I was starting way before October. But I had soccer and hockey. So soccer, when they hit conference play, they're playing Thursdays and Sundays. Okay, well, hockey's playing Fridays and Saturdays. So I'm not just working Thursday through Sunday because Monday through Wednesday, I have to have my game notes done. I have to have preview articles and all that. And I know we'll talk about that. But balancing that while taking two classes too is I might have an essay due on a Sunday night as well. So it's just finding that time I've done homework on Friday nights. There's been times where I've had to say like, no, I can't go out tonight. Like I really need to get this paper done. But you know what? Once it's done, like we're good next week. We're good tomorrow night. You just have to stay positive with it. You're gonna miss a few things, and that's okay because it's rewarding. And I know I just went on a tangent there, but what was your next question, Colton?
Well, just thinking about, yeah, and on top of all that, there's also days where you and I are at the Mercyhurst Ice Center until 11 o'clock, some nights 10 o'clock. It depends
Yeah.
if we got, well, I was about to say we don't have, we might, well, I was about to say we were not supposed to have any more double headers, but we are in a few weeks. We'll get to that in just
Yeah.
a little bit. But so were you able to get those 8 hours of sleep from that stretch that you mentioned from December 2024, the when you graduated? Were you able to get all 8 hours of sleep every night?
I'd say at least 7 to 8 every night. There was very few times where I wasn't. There's a couple of times where I had discussion post to at midnight and was turning those in and going to bed. But sometimes I had to kind of like I'm big on working out and going to the gym too. And sometimes it's like, all right, you know what? I'm not going to the gym tomorrow morning because I need that extra hour of sleep if I'm gonna have all these meetings for student government and then go work a game at night. Or there was times where so I had to have office hours as student government president, and I was also like I created some office hours for athletics as well because I was just helping everybody out in any way I could. I was doing women's basketball game notes. I wrote all of our public address announcer scripts. I was at almost all of our home games. Like so I was allotting time in the week to and then I also took over. So that was another thing is I took over a few sports as well. I was covering men's soccer and softball senior year, pretty much their sport information contact. So I was doing that too, and I had to make sure that I kept up with post game recaps, preview articles, feature articles, player of the week nominations. There's a lot of things that I was already doing that are helping me thrive in the role that I'm in now. But to answer your question, back to the sleep is yeah, I'm pretty strict about it, and I usually set my alarm based on what's 8 hours prior to that. So like after the Super Bowl and I watched the Olympics for a little bit, I don't know, went to bed at 11:30. I set my alarm Monday for 7:30 and went to the gym and then get a good hour workout anyway, breakfast, come to work. Like it's weird. It's just how my brain is wired. It doesn't bother me. And I think the biggest shock, and we should write down the minute marker of this, the biggest shock to everybody is that I do not have any caffeine. I've never drank coffee. I don't have energy drinks.
What?
Um, it
What?
doesn't make any sense. I haven't been tested for ADHD, but I don't have it because the doctors don't think I have it. I don't have ADD. I don't have any kind of attention deficit where I would even need that. Not that people that do need caffeine, but like I don't have caffeine. I don't drink coffee. When I go to Starbucks or Tim Hortons or Dunkin' or anything like that, I'll get like chai tea lattes, but there's barely any caffeine in those. Yeah, I've actually never had an energy drink. Um, yeah, some vodka Red Bull counts. I've had one of those, but I don't drink coffee. I don't know. I can wake up at 7 in the morning and go to the gym and function for the rest of the day. And I might be, they make those jokes about like morning gym goers where they, have that crash at 2 o'clock in the afternoon where you're yawning. But sometimes I'll get tired. But I think the craziest thing with that is there's been times where I had an 8 a.m. class and I play in rec leagues up at Penbriar Athletic Club near Mercyhurst. I play in rec soccer leagues. And some of those games are late. I mean, all the club teams and now the baseball lacrosse season, all those people scheduling practices, those games are at 8, 9, and 10 o'clock at night. And so there's been times where I had an 8 a.m. class and a 9:50 p.m. kickoff for a rec league. And yeah, I'm exhausted at 11 o'clock, but I'll sleep 8 hours and I'm sore in the morning. I'm in my 20s. I'm not in my prime like I was running at night anymore. And I'm sore in the morning, but it's a new day. I don't like wasting time. So I don't like sleeping more than 8 hours unless I need to, or it was a long night or I'm really tired because I want to take advantage of that other 16 hours of life of working and taking advantage of everything. But yeah, I try to get sleep, but the caffeine, I just haven't needed. Everyone's like, oh, you're going to need it when you hit to college. All right. Went through 4 years. They're like, once you hit grad school, it's February and I haven't needed any caffeine yet. I don't get it either. My mom and sister both drink coffee. My grandma drinks coffee. My dad drinks energy drinks, and I don't have any of it. I don't know. It amazes people. They're like, I don't know how you have the energy that you have, and I don't know.
Well,
It's a
you
miracle.
see me. Well, you see me when I walk into the ice rink or at the basketball arena. I have a water bottle, my coffee mug, and my shaker for my Celsius packets. And come to think of it, from all the times that I've worked with you over these past 2 years, I've never seen you with a coffee cup in your hand. It's just
Just
something
have
I
a water bottle.
should have thought about it already. I just can't believe I haven't thought about that already.
Yeah. I drink a lot of water. I mean, it's something I've always just helps digestively. It gives me some energy too. But yeah, it's just water. I drink chocolate milk in the morning, too, but in water, and I don't know. I just haven't needed caffeine. And it amazes me too with all the hours that we put into athletics and everything else. And I don't know. I mean, like even like today, I've been in the office all day because I didn't want to go home in between now and recording the podcast to get to talk to you. So I was just like, what am I going to do with that hour that I would have left or a couple hours? Is that I just got some work done ahead of time for tomorrow. It's just how I'm wired. If I can try to get stuff out of the way, and I don't know. Yeah, caffeine. I don't get it either. I don't brag about it because it doesn't make sense to me and it doesn't make sense to anybody else. So but they'll ask, hey, you want any coffee? No, I'm good. Are you sure it's early? Like I don't know. Early flights, anything like that. Just give me a bottle of water.
Now, for anyone who doesn't know, Jay's nickname is Mr. Mercyhurst as well, but I think I got a new one for you, my friend, Mr. Workhorse, because that is what you are.
Thank you.
Just
I appreciate that.
unbelievable. And now, so I see how much work you do, and I'm so proud of you. But that's something that we'll save towards the end of the episode because we still got a lot more to talk about. And you also were at Mercyhurst at a unique time as well, because after it would have been your sophomore or your junior year, Mercyhurst made the announcement that they were going to be leaving the NCAA Division II ranks in the PSAC to join the NEC, the Northeast Conference, and to join the conference, which means Mercyhurst, a NCAA Division I member full time as a school. Mercyhurst hockey has been Division One since the late '90s. But how was that like for you, Jay, being a student when the announcement was made? And did you do anything to help get ready for the announcement when it was made? I believe it was April of 2024.
Mhm. Yeah, so it was really interesting because I didn't expect it at all. I mean, I wouldn't have thought that. I was like, oh, I love the PSAC because it was just always competitive. You never really did the Pennsylvania State Athletic Conference, for anyone listening, was with a conference that Mercyhurst was in, Division II, and they most are known for, I'd say, football and basketball, but they're competitive in a lot of their conferences. Um, yeah, I didn't expect it, and it was awesome because I remember going to the press conference and hearing Joe Spano talk, and Tim Quinn facilitated it, and Caitlin Lowe was our student government president at the time, and she had to keep that a secret and then help transition everybody into that Division I mindset because she was a student athlete as well on the women's soccer team. She's a goalkeeper. Um, but the Division I transition, I'd say, didn't affect me a lot right in April. It was in August when it affected me because our I don't know his exact title, but I'm calling him our sport information director. He's in our communications department. He decided he was leaving at the end of August, and then our assistant AD ended up leaving later that semester. But like I was mentioning earlier about running our comms department based off of all like two full-time employees, and then obviously our athletic director and assistant ADs were checking in with us and meeting with us too. But I as a student, because the sports were getting to, like, it was, everybody was getting stretched thin. Our main graduate assistant, who lived on campus and was in his second year at the time, he had a lot of sports. I can't name them all now, but I know he had women's hockey, and then he also had a couple fall sports on top of that: volleyball, golf, men's lacrosse, soccer. He had too much. And he was like, I was like, oh, like, you want me to help you with like your men's soccer preview? And he was like, I guess I didn't think of that. He's like, yeah. He's like, so I wrote one and he proofread it, obviously. He was like, just gonna let me do that. But I took over men's soccer for him after their first game. So they played at Pitt, I think, to open their season that year, which was huge for the school because it was like, wow, men's soccer. This is like the first Division I game. Men's soccer is playing at Pitt. I know Pitt's a big ACC school and they're a good soccer program, but so after that, it was cool. I actually went to the game. I sat with athletic director Joe Spano, president Kathy Getz, Dr. Kathleen Getz at the game. I went to the game as just a student. I drove down there because I just love soccer. I love Pittsburgh. It was like, I didn't have anything going on. I think it was before classes started, or it was the first week, where they do all the syllabus stuff. And I went to the game and I took a picture of Dr. Getz and Austin Solomon, our head coach of the men's soccer team, at the game. And I went and sat up with Joe Spano and Dr. Getz, and it was awesome because it was just sitting there, like, it was just me as a student sitting with them at one of our first big Division I soccer games. It was awesome. And what was cool is, so there was I think we scored, but they were reviewing it for a potential offside call. Now Pitt has VAR, video assisted referee, and they were reviewing the call, and the call was reversed, I think. Anyway, whatever they did, the call was reversed. And Joe Spano and I were sitting next to Dr. Getz, and she said, why was that offside? So I explained it to her, and she said, why can't we get that technology? And I was like, well, Joe and I looked at each other and we're like, we have to slow down. Like, we're not going to have VAR in our first season as Division I university. Like, that's sense of technology, and that's fairly new to the soccer/football world in general, having VAR. But it was just cool to see them already thinking ahead of, like, Mercyhurst potentially having VAR at some point. Now that's way down the road, but it was just a cool thing to experience right in the beginning. And then, so as I mentioned, I picked up men's soccer and was covering them with sport information. So with, written previews, post-game recaps, social media, things like that. And what was amazing is they won the conference. So it's a great men's soccer program. The year prior to that, I believe Austin Solomon and his team, in his first year coaching as head coach, they went, I think, 19-1-1. They had a tremendous year in the PSAC. Unfortunately, they lost to, I think it was Post University in the NCAA tournament. They lost to Post. But anyways, they had a great year already. So they won the regular season. This is the first Division I regular season win for Mercyhurst, and it was crazy because they couldn't even qualify for the postseason at the time. And so I'm covering a team that now just won they were winning. I think they had 10 wins that season. They had a tremendous year. They were dominating in the conference. They had a few non-conference wins as well. But and I remember their first win, and it was cool because I was at my sister's soccer game. She plays for Harbor Creek High School down the road where we live in Harbor Creek. And my mom was like, "Why'd you bring your laptop to the game?" My grandma was like, "Are you working? You're always working." At the game, and I had my laptop out, and they're like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm watching men's soccer. They're playing Robert Morris right now." And I was like, looking at my preview. I read because this was my first time writing two sport articles like that. I was like, "Look at I put that they're facing their foe down I-79 or something," and they were laughing because Robert Morris is only 2 hours from here. And all of a sudden, 6 minutes into the game, Riley Kutzbach scores. And I was like, oh my gosh, like men's soccer to score. This is my first game covering them. Like, this is awesome. And I wrote the recap and posted it. It was amazing. The post game graphic as well. And I was doing that all from another soccer game, my sister's game. And it was just a cool experience. But that whole season was just awesome because it was I love soccer, and to be able to cover that and to be able to get paid hourly to cover a soccer team. And it was Division I, and they won the regular season. And that coaching staff is just tremendous as well. Austin Solomon, Andy Bennett, their grad assistant at the time was Tom Berry. But they were so welcoming and so appreciative of the fact that I was a student. So I was emailing SIDs asking for word rosters on home games and setting up and helping set up stats and everything. And my email signature said athletic communications student assistant. And they probably saw that I was student government president and all these other things. And it was just like a wow for them. It was just a crazy experience to be able to do that. And Division I transitioning to that is, and it was at the same time as like I mentioned, was student government president. I had a lot of friends that were student athletes, and I know I'm an Erie native, but I lived on campus that senior year because it just seemed right. There was no reason I shouldn't be living on campus as student government president or with being as involved. It made everything easier too. But I was living on campus and I had a lot of friends, and I often met with the vice president of student life and athletics, which is Dr. Laura Zirkle. I met with Joe Spano, and I was a key asset to them because they were like, "Oh, like how is this team feeling? Like how is everyone feeling with the transition? Are they worried about classes? Because when you're going to play at Johnstown and Gannon down the road or IUP, those are shorter road trips than driving all the way to FDU in New Jersey and Central Connecticut." And so, especially when some of those, like, I mean, basketball, I think their conference games Thursday, Saturday, it's like they might be leaving Wednesday night, they might be leaving Thursday morning. Well, then what about other classes? So it was great to be able to help Joe Spano and Dr. Zirkle kind of get a sense of how students were feeling and how they could help, and then they could work with the professors as well. But it was a great year for me too because I was growing so much. I was meeting with a lot of the top people at Mercyhurst. I had a lot of good relationships with all my friends that were student athletes or not student athletes and how they felt with the Division I transition. But I was also getting to cover some of those teams that were in the Division I transition. And I had complete opposites. So our softball team, I love working with them. I've worked all of their games since my sophomore year. And Leanne Baker is a tremendous coach and a tremendous person, and all the players, they're appreciative of me too. But men's soccer won the regular season, and softball, they finished last in the conference. It's a tough. I follow the Women's College World Series and watch college softball, and there is a huge gap between Texas A&M, and Oklahoma, and some of those big schools than the lower Division I schools, and it's hard to struggle or to transition into that. And men's soccer, there's a lot more recruiting and transfers and other things that go involved with bigger rosters. With softball, there isn't as much of that. So it was, I saw both ends of it and I saw both sides and saw how optimistic some of the coaches can be or weren't, and some of the players as well too. So it was that Division I transition it's really awesome.
And what were the reactions, Jay, from all of the student athletes when you did go back to Joe and Dr. Zirkle to tell them about how they feel about the transition?
Yeah, yeah. So I can share some of that because the reaction is what you would expect right away is, wait, how am I going to be able to compete with all these Division I teams and these athletes? I was recruited as a Division II player, and Lemoyne, I believe, was fairly new as well. It was the year before us, if I'm not mistaken, or 2 years before us, Division I. I'm right in saying that, I believe, very cool.
What school was it again, Jay? Oh, Lemoyne. Yes.
Lemoyne?
So, yeah.
Yes.
So Lemoyne's first year was the year before we moved up to Division I.
Yes.
So 23,
Yeah.
2024 was their first
So
year.
so that's one of the teams, but the rest of them have all been Division I. So like a lot of the students were worried and saying like, I was recruited as a Division II player. I don't know how I'm going to be able to compete. Like, what if what if I just get cycled out? Like they're going to start recruiting more Division I players, like the playing time. And it was really stressful. I know of some student athletes on some teams that they stopped playing. They quit. They transferred too. Because some of them, it's Mercyhurst is such a close-knit community that there was a couple people that I know that would rather stay at Mercyhurst and focus on their studies than transfer to another school to play their sport, which is just interesting to me too. It says a lot about Mercyhurst, that they retain students, and others would transfer to another Division II school, or um, it was just like a lot of them were saying like they were worried about that. And then there's some athletes that and I there's too many for me to name, but just like right off the bat, I think of like Whitley Easton on women's lacrosse had a tremendous year. I'm pretty sure she was NEC Player of the Year, and she was recruited when Mercyhurst was Division II, the Division II level. Jeff Planutis on basketball, Dylan Sumner on men's soccer. I could name so many, and
Don't
I could
forget
keep
about
going, but
Bailey
those are
too.
just
About Bailey too,
Bailey
with women's
Coons.
basketball last year.
There's just so many players that did have standout, and it's like they did have standout years and even careers with Mercyhurst. Dylan Sumner was the NEC Player of the Year. Jeff Planutis had a tremendous year as well. Same with Bailey Coons. I remember when Jeff hit 10 3-pointers in a game. Like,
That's a
uh,
game I never forget.
but
I was on the call for it. I know you were there too. That was nuts.
yeah, it was awesome. I was probably on the stats for it, honestly, the live stats. But so I was able to report back to Joe Spano, Laura Zirkle, and others, both ends of it. There was a lot of worry, and there was some, I think there was going to be some coaching changes and some teams, and obviously we've added sports since then and sport or two, and it was going to be a lot of change. But the biggest thing I use to describe it for any of the athletes or teams or coaches is just there's going to be growing pains. You know what I mean? Like when you're 13 growing, like your knees hurt, like there's like literal growing pains, and there's figurative growing pains with this transition. Is there wasn't too many teams with a winning record on campus last year. It was going to be like that. It was bound to happen because you have all those non-conference games against big schools and game guarantees, et cetera. But there's a lot of players that really adapted well, and a lot of teams that are adapting well and already in our second year. I mean, right now both basketball teams are in playoff contention already, and
Not to mention, we're
um,
on pace to host too for the first round of the
ex
quarterfinals. Yeah,
exactly,
for the
yeah.
first round of the playoffs.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of, and both our soccer teams are improving too, and kind of figuring out what systems work for them and figuring out other teams, and with like some staff changes as well too, which is that those are bound to happen. But to circle back to your question again, I was able to report back to them how students felt, and it was just a unique experience for me because I could have honest conversations with both Joe Spano and Dr. Zirkle and the students as well, as they felt comfortable coming to me with those things and knew that they could trust me. And I always left names out of it. Sometimes I mention the team, like say like, oh, like, a couple players from this team were saying this just so that they know. But it was a special position that I was in that year.
And the other sport that we forgot to talk about, Jay, that you do cover, and the one that I mistakenly said at the start of recording the episode, is stunt. So, for anyone who doesn't know, what is stunt, and how is that like for you covering a sport that a lot of people probably don't know much about it, if anything about it?
Yeah, yeah. So there's a great definition on the website stuntthesport.org. I'm not going to pull it up to mess with our Zoom call. So forgive me if I mess up the brief description of it, but it takes all the competitive aspects of like competitive cheer and like acrobatics and tumbling, and it makes stunt what it is. It's a four-quarter game. So your first quarter is partner stunts. So you have two teams doing the exact same routine at the same time on the mat, and there's three judges who are judging how well they do that routine. So there's partner stunts, there's pyramids and tosses, and then there's the jumps and tumbling quarter. And the fourth quarter is one long routine that takes all three of those quarters combined. So like jumps and tumbling, like your back handsprings and all those terms that I don't entirely know the terms yet, but I know how the sport works. Um, but it's awesome. The environment a lot of people ask me like, oh, like what is stunt and what is this? What is that? Like, how does it work? And the scoring is basically, so there's four rounds in each quarter, and the judges will signal down to, or they have a radio down to the referee who signals like what they'll put their hand over to the side, or like both teams, for who wins that round. But it's I think what's hard about it is it's almost based on perfection. It's how well you can do that routine. And there's different routines. There's a coin toss in the beginning that always throws people off. What do you mean there's a coin toss? They flip a coin to see who gets to pick what routines first. So the biggest example I could think of is that the University of Kentucky, I'm fairly certain, is the number two team in the country right now for stunt. The routines, I think the numbers are 1 to 7, 1 to 8, and the coach will put up a number of what routine they want to do. Well, 1 is the easiest, 7 or 8 is the hardest. Kentucky might have those 5 to 8 nailed better than a Division II school might. So winning that coin toss is important in the beginning. And it's crazy because the wins and losses don't seem to matter as much because the girls are so supportive of each other. And I think that's what's so important about stunt is it's a tremendous sport that brings together female student athletes. And putting aside all the fact that it helps Title IX and the business side of it, is it helps a lot of female student athletes because USA Cheer is massive. There is cheer competitions all over this country, in gymnastics and all of that. And you can go and play a Division I, II, or III sport, Division I here at Mercyhurst, and be able to do what you enjoy doing growing up and compete against big schools, small schools, compete against other schools. But they're so supportive of each other. It's like I've seen rounds that Mercyhurst loses or other teams lose, and they're cheering for the other team. They're clapping, like applauding their routine. And it's just interesting because like I work with hockey teams men's teams who fight each other, men's soccer teams who those games get chippy too. And to work with such a sport that's so supportive of one another, just like reiterating the fact that I'm so passionate about sports because it's a community of its own. It's incredible. It's a growing sport, and they now have championship status. So now there's going to be NCAA championships. And right now we're the number going into the preseason. They haven't released the poll yet because all the teams are starting up, but we were number 4 last year, and we beat the number 3 team last year, UT Martin, I believe it was. So like we're the number 4 team in the country right now for stunt, which is incredible. And now we're like championship status. Like it's incredible. And our coach Ruth Ann Oakes is so great to work with, and I see her motivating her student athletes. And it's an interesting sport to cover. I have a great lineup of sports because soccer will always be the one I'm most passionate about because I'm a big soccer guy, and hockey I've grown a tremendous passion for. But to be able to have stunt too is just interesting because I get to teach people about a new sport. It was emerging. We just added it. This is I believe our fourth season at Mercyhurst. I think third season. And we've had a winning record the last 2 years, which goes to show a lot about what Ruth Ann has done with the program in just the 2 years we've had it. And now we're nationally ranked as a Division I university, which is incredible. So yeah, stunt's an emerging sport, and it's not as emerging as it once was because now that they're championship status, I believe they became the 97th, off the top of my head, I remember numbers really well, 97th NCAA sport to be granted championship status, which is incredible too. I think women's wrestling got it at the exact same time too, which we just had at Mercyhurst as well. But yeah, stunt, it's a good time.
On the top of your head, Jay, do you know how many NCAA teams there are in stunt? Because I would imagine there are.
Off the top of my head, at the Division I level, I believe there's 8. Division II has a lot in Division III, so I'm not entirely sure there. I know, again, it's off the top of my head because I don't want to go out of this window, but on the Stunt to Sport website, it has all the college rankings at each level, and the top teams are UT Martin, California Baptist, University of Kentucky, Mercyhurst. Cal Poly is now in there as well, and I don't think that they were before. And those are just a few off the top of my head. But again, that stunttosport.org website is tremendous for there's video demonstrations of each quarter and what stunt is, and it has all the rankings and everything. What's unique is our conference is the MAWC, Mid-America West Conference. Now, there's nothing about Erie, Pennsylvania that's Mid-America because look at the winters that we have in the extreme cold. There's nothing west about Erie, Pennsylvania. I guess we're in northwestern Pennsylvania, but in Mid-America West, and I'm pretty sure that's a conference just for stunt. There's a Mid-America conference, but there's not a Mid-America West conference. So that's interesting as well. And I believe our Mid-America West Conference championships for stunt are in April. I have that up on the website, but we're a competitive team and they have a lot of passion, which I admire about them. And it's hard to build pyramids while holding up people and then tossing them. It's and all the other things that they do, and it's got to be hard on your knees and wrists, and they're all really strong too. So it's a cool sport. Yeah, to answer your question, I know there's at least 8 as of last year in the Division I level, and they'll play a lot of Division II schools, and it's still competitive. I mean, we just played Northern Kentucky, who is Division I, but they're in their conference, and it was a closer game, but we beat them. So those are one of our bigger wins this year already. Whenever we went down to Kentucky just a couple last week.
And going into the nuts and bolts of what you do as a sports information director, something that a lot of things that you do are create game notes and, like you mentioned before, write game recaps and game previews. How is that like finding all that information that you have to put in for your game notes and your previews and your recaps to make sure that fans have a better understanding of the main storylines entering into each game for every sport that you cover?
Yeah, that's a great question. One thing that one of my grad assistants that I work with, Miranda Waterman, she made a great analogy the other day because someone said, like, what is the point of athletic communications? What do they do? And she said that without athletic communications or sport information, it would just be two teams showing up and scrimmaging. And I was like, that's a great analogy because there wouldn't be a broadcaster, public address announcer, live stats, and most of those other things. And maybe scorebook is more operations, but there's a lot that goes into it throughout the week. And I mentioned earlier how when I was in soccer and hockey crossover season, I have games Thursday through Sunday. Those aren't all the only days that I work. Those were longer weeks because Monday through Wednesday, I have to do all that prep of the research and articles and stats and nominations for hockey, the AHA, and for soccer was the NEC. But game notes are fun. They're really fun. And it's not just, I could just link, if I could just link a history link from a team's website and say, here, this is the matchup history. But you can tell a story about it, and you can tell a story about it in a few sentences. For example, our Mercyhurst women's hockey team is playing Syracuse this weekend. Okay, well, off the top of my head, because I just did the game notes earlier, so this is still somewhat fresh. I think our record against Syracuse all time is 63, 17, and 2, or something like that. It's along those lines. So I could just put that record there, but why don't I tell a story about how well Mike Sisti coaches against Syracuse for some reason? Mike Sisti is one of the greatest coaches ever, so it doesn't surprise me, but so let's put it. So I went back and looked, and this is part of doing your research and looking at all the matchups. We won our first 30 matchups against Syracuse, and I put
30?
this on my game notes.
30.
30. I'm pretty sure 30. It wasn't consecutive because we won 20. We were unbeaten in our first 30. My apologies. 28 wins, which is still incredible. And I think 2 draws because at the time, with the conferences we were in, we weren't going into shootouts. So they were just classified as draws or ties, which they still are now, but there wasn't shootouts at the time. And then once the women and men merged with the Atlantic hockey, the men had always been doing shootouts with Atlantic hockey. Anyways, but yeah, we won our first 30. And I'm not sure if this can mess with the camera, but I still have my game notes open. And I'm just looking at what I typed up right now. Yeah, the Lakers were.
I still see you. You're good.
Perfect. Yeah, I'm reading it right now. The Lakers were 28-0-2 in the first 30 matchups against Syracuse all time. The first series took place in the 2008-09 season, where the Lakers won 4-1 and 7-1 in that series. But yeah, our all-time record against Syracuse to 62, 15, and 5. And it's incredible that like the storylines that go into that. And I know I already sent you the game notes for those people
Yeah,
in Colton.
I'm looking at him now. Yeah, I'm looking at him now too.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's just it's a cool storyline to be able to explain those types of like matchups. And there was another thing too. So another one off the top of my head. Again, I remember stats and numbers really well. Mercyhurst men's hockey against RIT. It's pretty similar. I don't remember the record. It could be something as far as 31, 32, and 5. I don't know. Anyways, one notable thing is that RIT has never won 7 consecutive games against Mercyhurst. They've gone on 6-game win streaks. They never won 7. Okay. Well, we in that series against RIT last weekend or 2 weekends ago, our guys tied RIT 2-2 and then lost the shootout, but it didn't matter because that streak stayed alive. And then yeah, they lost the shootout, but that broke the streak right there. Like they couldn't like get that seventh win in a row. And there's just little storylines that you can tell in the middle of that. I was just going to try to pull it up, but I realized I didn't have my men's notes open. But anyways, like there's storylines you can tell with this matchup history, and you know, maybe a home record is better than an away record. That's important because having your home fans behind you is makes a tremendous difference in anything. And that's why even with like playoffs of games, having that home field, home court, home field, home ice advantage, it makes a difference. So maybe when I'm writing my game notes for a home and home series, I'm just thinking about trying to think men's hockey in Niagara. I'm pretty sure that series is also close, all-time record. But I'm pretty sure that we have a winning record against them at home, and they have a winning record against us at their place. So that's important in a home and home series where, of course, we swept them this year in our first series, which was great for the team in the program, and for me to get to write about. But that's important to note that maybe we have a better chance of winning at home, and we need to figure something out on those away games. But that kind of matchup history and research to do into those game notes is awesome, and finding storylines too. Like stats can tell a story, and our Mercyhurst women's hockey team, off the top of my head, I can name so many great storylines going on right now. Like another 20-win season for Mike Sisti. Off the top of my head, I think that's his 21st. He's in his 27th year, by the way, and one of those years was cut short to COVID. Our women's team, who's now ranked 13th in the nation, they've won 9 of their last 10 games. They've won 7 in a row. They've had a winning record, I think, in every season but 2 for Mike Sisti. Maybe that's 1. Off the top of my head, I can pull that up too. But it's just there's so many good storylines with stats. So it's more than just linking a record and like a link or to a website or anything like that. Yeah, Mike Sisti's only had 2 losing seasons all time in 27 years, which is incredible. But there's just storylines. You can always write these things, and it doesn't need to be long. No one wants a very long paragraph of all words on game notes, but just enough where you can get a quick stat for a broadcaster for, even when I think so when we got our 20th win this season was Delaware on the 31st. Like that would be great for somebody like you, Colton, to know it, or anything is just right off the top of your head, because I have it in my game notes. Hey, that's our 25th 20-win season. And he's only been coaching for 27 seasons, which is the entirety of the Mercyhurst women's hockey program.
Yeah, I was about to say, Mike Sisti started the program from scratch.
Started it, yep. Yeah. So that's incredible too. There's all these great storylines that don't need to be a long story. They can help in a hockey broadcast where there's a lot of action, and Colton might need just a couple minutes of things to talk about in between plays. That could help. And so that's what it's like rewarding too. Whenever I can listen to broadcasts and I hear those storylines or game notes, or I hear someone bring that up, like, oh yeah, I read that there. It's all that research that goes into it. At the time, it's worth it, and it's cool too because I like stats. I like some of those obscure stats too that people find. Like another one off the top of my head, I'm pretty sure you found this, Colton, so I give you credit for it, is we played on Halloween this year. I think that was against Delaware. Yeah. And if I'm not mistaken, yeah, that was the overtime one we won 3-2.
Yep, Sophie. Yep. Sophie finally got the
but
game.
Colton found a great stat for me that we were 3-1-1 on Halloween all time. I love stats like that. I don't know, that's just a good thing going into it. Now we're 4-1-1. Or like one that so that game against Delaware was just promoted to Division I university after being a club hockey team of the 45th team in the NCAA for women's hockey. So I found that, maybe you found this, Colton, or I did, I don't know. In all of our inaugural matchups against AHA opponent, we've won all of them. We've never lost an inaugural matchup against an AHA opponent. And Delaware is the only one to take Mercyhurst women's hockey to overtime in their inaugural matchup. And they're one of 2 teams to score 2 goals in their inaugural matchup. There's all these cool storylines, and I love obscure stats. And I have that in my game notes for Delaware we could look back on. But yeah, there's just a lot of I love fun stats like that. And it's just cool that I get to look up those stats, because I love when they pull those up, those the cliche, the ESPN type of stat. I love seeing those come across my Instagram, and for me to be able to find some of those for my teams and put those in game notes or preview articles is just it's awesome. And it's one of the parts I love about my job is the game notes. And yeah, you work all week leading up to the games that you're going to work on the weekend, but it's worth it. And I love putting in the time and the research.
And for a weekend that's coming up for us, Jay, obviously, well, for us, you and I are going to be at the Mercyhurst Ice Center covering women's hockey as they take on Syracuse. But men's hockey is going to be out in Colorado taking on Air Force. So, how is that like when you have one team that is home and you have to stay for it, and at the same time, you have to cover a team that's on the road about maybe 2,000, 1,500 miles away?
Yeah. Yeah. So just with hockey in general is I love having both hockey teams and I love having the both. Like I could have had both men's soccer and women's soccer. But what's hard about that is that when they play at the same time is I can't travel with them. So I would have loved to fly out to Air Force. I've never been to Colorado. Their arena is nice. The SID reached out to me and was like, "Hey, is anyone traveling? You guys have any radio or media?" And I was like, "No, unfortunately, our women play at the same time, so I don't get to travel as much." But for me, especially with having both, is sometimes with men's and women's hockey, they're at different times. So thankfully for me, is the women this weekend play at 6 and the men are at 9 o'clock because it's 7 o'clock Mountain Time, which is 2 hours. So I can still fully watch that game on Flow Hockey. And by the time I wrap up the women's stuff, but why I keep bringing up crossover season is this weekend is insane for me. So softball opens their season on Friday at Presbyterian College in the Scotsman Invitational at 10 a.m. they play, and then they play at 2:38. So they play Albany at 10 a.m. and then I think they play Presbyterian at 2:30 p.m. Then I have women's hockey at 6 p.m. Stunt is also home in the athletic center at 6, and unfortunately I can't go to Stunt's home opener, which I am devastated about because it's also an epilepsy awareness game, but we really need an SID at women's hockey. And with Stunt, as I know I can train the public address announcer and they'll be fine. And that'll probably be the only one that I miss. But that's what's hard is that there's those sacrifices. So I have to tell the coach, "Hey, I'm not going to be the home opener. I apologize. Like I have to be at women's hockey." And I would be thankful for whichever one I had to be at. But so that's hard. So that's where now we have 4 events and then men's hockey at 9. So this is this coming weekend, and then the 27th and 28th, I'll have 4 sports to cover playing at the same time, like on the same day. And it's really just about finding balance. So I have to find the positives with it. So the positives are softball and men's hockey are away. So that's 2 less home games that I have to worry about statting and setting up and all that stuff. So I can cover them from home. So I might not come into the ice rink until um, after that first softball game, and then I can cover them away. And softball is not being streamed, unfortunately, this weekend, so I'll be following through live stats. But um, what's cool with that is I can create a story through live stats if I really needed to. Like I've done that last year with softball, and it's cool that I get to follow all those sports. And I don't want hockey season to end any earlier than I want it to go as far as possible. I want women's hockey to beat Penn State or whoever it is in the AHA championship and go to the NCAA tournament. And I hope others want that too, because Penn State's ranked number 4, we're 13. If we beat them in the AHA championship, both AHA teams will make the tournament because Penn State is number 4 and they'll have that like automatic bid, I believe. I'm pretty sure that's how it is. And then Mercyhurst. But I want their seasons to go as far as possible. And men's hockey, if they keep winning some AHA games, they could have one of those home Tuesday playoff games, maybe, or one of those
Yeah,
home
in the
playoff
first
games, or
round.
even yeah, because as of right now, as things stand, I think they play Air Force, which would be a lot to have to go travel back there 2 weeks after or 3 weeks after they already are. But I think that we play Air Force as of right now. But the standings are also close, so
Yeah, I think the
that could
playoffs would
change.
end. I was looking yesterday. I think they would have to play Canisius right now, actually. But yeah, you and I know that that could change with yeah, with everything being so tight at the bottom of the standing. So yeah, we'll just have to wait and see how things
Yeah,
play
things
out.
can change. But yeah, with having all those at once is at least the times are spread out, and I love the sports that I have, and I know that all the coaches I have are so appreciative of me, and that just makes my job rewarding when they text me like, "Hey, good job today. Thank you for everything." Like all those little, I don't need a pat on the back, but it's surely helpful, especially in this kind of industry and with the work that I do is getting that appreciation sometimes because sometimes you feel like your work's under the radar. It's like, oh, you're setting up the stats. Well, all those people at the game aren't following live stats, so what does it matter? It's like so just getting that appreciation that all 5 of my coaches are great with. And I do truly work with 5 of the best coaches. And it's great because I have good relationships with other coaches on campus and I don't even cover their team with sport information. And like I think off the top of my head, like Jimmy Latona with baseball and Dale White with women's soccer. Dale White with women's soccer. I can't believe I wasn't covering them this year because he coached me for at least a year in club soccer when I was younger. It's incredible. Like Dale White and I are close, and his assistant coach Jack Emanuel, him and I played on the same team because we're both 2002, and when U.S. Soccer they do it by year, and so we played on the same club team forever. It's like I have all these connections with people, not just with my coaches. That is why I love working at Mercyhurst. But yeah, again, circling back to the question, 'cause I keep going on tangents, is covering all of them at once. It's the times are spread out, and you make it work. If I have to have tabs open in Safari and Google Chrome with my laptop plugged in, and so be it. I have to watch a game on Flow Hockey and wherever else, it's ESPN Plus, NEC Front Row on another tab. It's just how it is. Split screen. I have an iPad. I can always put it up on there or monitor in an office or something, and you find a way. That's some advice I give everybody is you're working in this industry, like you can find a way.
Yeah, and sticking to the two main sports that we've been talking about and that we
Mhm.
have right now, because we're down in the stretch towards playoff season in women's hockey and men's hockey. I first want to discuss men's hockey because it's a significant year for Mercyhurst men's hockey because Rick Gotten is going to be hanging up his suit jacket behind the bench as the head coach for Mercyhurst men's hockey, a post that he has had since 1988 on the top of my head. I should know that on the top of my head. Now I don't know why. But how has that been for you, Jay, getting the opportunity to be the main contact for the team, knowing the significance around Rick's last year? Now, so I know you also had the chance to help break the news with helping to write the excuse me, to help write the not the recap, it's just the article about his decision to retire before the season began.
Yeah, so that was incredible. I talk about my senior year a lot because it really was incredible, but I was one of the few people that found out that Rick was retiring when he's going to, because they didn't want to have the GAs who already had all those sports at the time, again when we were shorter staffed, have to have a big article like that on their plate, and they saw it. This is why I'm so appreciative of Mercyhurst Athletics, is because they gave me that opportunity to write such a big article like that. That article is something I reread it sometimes. It's just like, wow, like I got to cover like something big like that. Um, and I remember titling it "Legend on Ice," like Rick Godkin announced his final season. But it was cool because I got to work with Rick, and I got to get quotes from prestigious people, and I had help with that too. And just kind of summarize his tremendous career. I mean, he's going to retire with a winning record, and he just surpassed 1,300 games. And then in the 1,300 first game, they won an amazing comeback against Sacred Heart, down to 1-0. A tremendous challenge to overturn a second goal for Sacred Heart, and that's just one of many wins. And then they came back and won 2-1. But just to be able to work with Rick Godkin and Tom Peffel too. So I also broke the news that he was going to be the next coach, which is just crazy that I got to write an article about Tom too. And Tom and I that's kind of where like our relationship started, with Tom and I, and how we got a little closer with that is because I was working with him to get quotes from his buddies at the college he used to coach at. I forget the name of it off the top of my head. I don't know if it's Eugene, but anyways, um, and we were texting back and forth, and I think one of the moments where I saw Tom Peffel for who he is, and I know he's going to be a great. Nobody can replace Rick Godkin, but I know he's a great fit for this program. Is the day leading up to his press conference and at his press conference. So not only did I get to write his article, but I got to host his press conference, where the news was recording too, where they announced that he was going to be the next coach. Because he texted me the night before, and it amazed me that so Tom Peffel in my eyes was that's assistant hockey coach. Like this is a prestigious guy on campus. He's going to take over, and he's texting me saying, "Does my quote sound good for the article and for the press conference? Like I'm new to this stuff. Like this is big for me." And it was just admirable that he looked up to me for that small moment of time where, as like he knows everything he needs to know about hockey and all these other things, but he was looking up to me to ask me if I thought his quote sounded good, and he was touching the right people, and talking about his family the right way. And then when I saw him tear up at that press conference, talking about his late father too, I was like, this is the type of guy that Mercyhurst hockey needs. This is this family oriented type of guy that I know is going to care for his players and expect the most out of them. And I'm so appreciative of the fact that I get to work with two completely different guys that are both perfect for the role of the Mercyhurst men's hockey coach. And Rick has a tremendous personality too. Anytime I see him, he's always cracking jokes, and I always used to see him in the dining hall when I was a student too. And sometimes he'd eat alone because he wants his alone time. I mean, he's always working with other people, and he always has a smile on his face, and he's so positive and optimistic. And obviously they've had their struggles the past few seasons as well, which happens. I mean, you can't be successful in every single season. It's unrealistic, but he still has over 670 wins to my knowledge off the top of my head without looking at it. And he's going to retire with at least a 52% win percentage, which it is incredible to coach that many games, that kind of longevity. And what's even more incredible is that it's all at Mercyhurst, and to be the Mercyhurst coach for that long. And then he kind of had Mike Sisti under his wing for, I think, a couple of years, if I'm not mistaken. And then Mike Sisti started the women's hockey program. It's just incredible to be able to work with both of these hockey programs for what they are, because you see like big hockey arenas. I mean, even I think of like nice ones like the Gene, RIT. I haven't gotten to go there, but I've seen it in pictures. And I know I'll get to travel there one day, but they compete with Mercyhurst women's hockey, and we're the ones with the smaller arena, um, probably the smaller population of the school as well, and everything is what you would think would be smaller. And we were often the more competitive team. We have a winning record against RIT all time for the women's side, and the men's side is close. And we're women's hockey team is the one that's ranked nationally. So look at the teams that women's hockey is ranked nationally alongside. When you see Minnesota, Minnesota State, Ohio State, Penn State, Wisconsin. Like, look at all those big schools, big programs, all these big roster sizes, and look at the fact that we have Julia Shaleen in the Olympics right now. Emma Newton is an alumni. Tia Johansson played here for 3 years, had, I think, at least 80 points. Like, she's a tremendous player, and she's scoring goals for Sweden. Like, look at all these players that are coming out of the Mercyhurst hockey program. And the men's side has their prestigious players too. Off the top of my head, 35 in the arena, Zaplowski, I forget his first name, under Rick as well. There's just all these great players that come out of the Mercyhurst hockey program. And it's just amazing that I get to cover that. And I'm covering it while I'm still a student, is what's amazing too, as I'm creating these relationships with Mike Sisti and Trey Flesh and Scott Spencer and Natasha Hawkins. And then on the men's side with Rick Godkin and Tom Peffel and Carlos Zernes. And it's a tremendous staff on both sides. And I love that I get to work with them and that they have this trust in me. Even on Sunday, Mike Sisti texted me, "Did you see Regina Metzler?" So the Olympics are going on. Finland, Czechia is the puck drop, I think, was around 3. And it was a little bit before that. And he said, "Hey, Regina Metzler won the, I don't know how to pronounce it correctly. It's an Austrian tournament, but it's the Wörthersee Trophy in Austria." And this tournament was for basically all the Olympic teams that just barely didn't make the Olympics. So Hungary, Austria, Switzerland even had a B team in this tournament, Denmark, Norway. But Mike Sisti texted me and said, "Hey, did you see they won that?" And because I have this great relationship with them already, and I'm passionate about the work that I'm doing with hockey, I had already reposted the Hungarian Ice Hockey Federation's picture of her winning it. And I put up an article within 15 minutes in the middle of everything else I was doing on Sunday and Super Bowl prep and all that, and put up an article. And Mike Sisti was like, "Awesome, thank you." And it's just this great relationship I have with them, where he knows what he can expect of me and what he can ask of me, and it's never too much. And I know what he's asking of me isn't too much. And it's just awesome that I get to work with coaches on both sides, and Rick Godkin and Tom Peffel as well too. Just texted me like, "Hey, thank you. We're so happy that you're on board, and like, we're gonna rebuild this brick by brick and everything like that, like slowly but surely." And even Rick too. Like, I know how hard you work, and I'm lucky that of all the teams on campus, like, that we have you too. And it's just they're great. They're great guys. I'm so happy for Rick Godkin that he gets to retire and he has this prestigious title on campus. And I can't wait for one day when he is inducted into the Mercyhurst Hall of Fame. And I'm assuming there's an NCAA Hockey Hall of Fame. And if he's not already, should be in that too when he retires. So it's
Yeah,
awesome.
Yeah, and I could speak from my experience too. It's also an honor and a privilege for me to get the opportunity to take all of the notes that you give me to also call games for Mercyhurst men's and women's hockey. It's definitely my favorite thing that I have been doing now in my career so far. So yeah, I can definitely speak to that as well. And moving on to still your role as the sports information director, what is it like for you during a game when you are patrolling live stats? So how does that work for anybody who doesn't know how it works to get live stats up online for people who might want to see it?
Yeah, so well, during a game, you might see me walking around our rink all the time because we have a unique setup in our rink where our broadcast booth is actually on the other side of it's on the same side as our scorekeeper and the scoreboard, but on the other side is our public address announcer and our press box, if you will, with the live stats. Um, but we use NCAA live stats, which I like. I know the program for most of the sports that do have it. Excuse me. And for hockey, I love hockey live stats because it's like a game. But anyway, setting it up is it's real simple because the NCAA rosters are already in there. You just have to like put in the game key in the platform, like the NCAA ice hockey platform. But like during the game is I started games for years when I wasn't announcing too with hockey too, but now I have some students that help me with it. And I have great student workers that help me with the live stats. But during the game, is it tracks, shots on goal, if it was blocked, if it's a pipe, saves, penalties, things of that sort. But during a game, what I'm doing is I'm usually running the social media. So I have the live stream up with Colton's audio. And so let's say the most chaotic part for me is when there's a goal. So let's say Mercier scores. What I'm doing immediately is if I didn't notice the assists, I'm waiting for the stream to catch up. It's usually about 25 seconds behind with a delay. And I'm immediately finding those assists because the two people that are inputting are going to need those assists, the primary, the secondary. The public address announcer is going to need that as well. And it's helpful for Colton if he has it early too, so he can say, oh, this is Charlene's second point. This is Perius's second point. This is Coglin's second goal, like things like that. So it's helpful. So I'm getting all that in a short time. Then right after I get those assists, I usually go back and I screen record the goal, go and upload it to our Twitter page. And then if I have time and we're getting everything and things are going well, I'll put it on our Instagram story as well. But it's important for me to get that goal in the time and everything in the score update to those fans as soon as possible because our hockey parents love all the content that we put out. I look at I see parents and I'm assuming they're parents because I can see their last names on their like handles, but they all like love it. They'll hit the heart on the story. They'll even reply to us in our DMs or comment on things. And it's important for families, maybe you have a family that's driving somewhere and their kids playing and maybe they're on their way home to go watch the stream, but they have the live stats pulled up or their Twitter pulled up and maybe they need to see that their son scored and they're like cheering like so that just to get everything out as soon as possible. This is important for me and I try to keep up with that. And then in between periods, I don't just get to sit there for the 15 minutes between the periods. As we print out the box scores, I go down and run them to the coaches of each team. And I always give the home team, the home coaches stats first. And then I go and give the copies to the away team. I go and run up to the broadcast booth, give it to Colton because it's important to see shots by period and all those things that he can't see on his computer. But if he's able to, during the second period, say like, oh, this is how they were this period and things like that. So that's what I'm doing between periods. And then, maybe I do go get to sit for a few more minutes. And then, but game days can be chaotic, but to use, like, I guess use a little more modern term is that I enter flow state on game days as I ask anybody around me as I'm locked in. You rarely will see me stressed. I mean, I've sweat in the ice rink before when it's hotter outside. Like I have sweat in an ice rink, just from a lot going on and running around, but I get really locked in on game days and I take it very seriously, but I do also have fun. I used to love statting hockey games because it's like a video game. And what I'm announcing is have fun. And that's what we do is for that game. That 3 period, 60-minute game is what the whole week is leading up to. Like it's the hype to build up to it. And that's what I love about, even a weekend game too, is that, yeah, I'm working on a weekend, but everything I did throughout that whole week was to prepare for that game. And there's things that you don't even realize that like a lot of the things with that game wouldn't operate without the work that we do in athletic communications, because if we didn't find an announcer, the families would just be watching a stream of a game without any context and maybe a scoreboard on there. We didn't have a public address announcer. No one in the arena, for people that don't know the signals of penalties, they're not going to know if it was a hook or trip or interference or anything like that. Um, and then it's so important for public address announcers too, because what if there's somebody that's blind in the crowd, but they can hear, so they can hear those updates from the game. There's little things you have to think about too that are very important, that we as athletic communications facilitate is whether we're actually public address announcing or we find it, and then the live stats and all those stats are so important too. Is another thing too. Is it gets tedious, but it's so important to have those points for players that want to go and play professionally, and we never want them to transfer, but if that helps to having those points, and just to be able to go play professionally, or even like I'll use Julia Shaleen as an example, is her season so far leading up to the Olympics is she with like 2 career hat tricks and top 5 in points. I'm just listing stuff off the top of my head, and all the goals and assists that she has. All of that contributes to her being selected to the Finland Olympic team. And Emma Newton had a tremendous career here as well too, and I contributed. This is her 3rd Olympics, but all those stats are so important, and I'm the one that is making sure those are put in. And if I happen to miss a secondary assist, I know my coaches are great about watching the film, sending me the clip, or just texting me and saying like, "Hey, can you add this assist to that?" And I'll go and confirm it. And those points are so important for all players. And it's just crazy to think about how much actually goes into a game day. Because for me, it doesn't seem like much. Now, some of the live stream stuff, some schools have broadcast departments and people that oversee that. Some of that stuff stresses me out a lot more than anything else. But I do enter this kind of like flow state on game day where it's like we're getting things done until that final whistle, the final buzzer. And it's just, it's fun. It's a lot of fun.
And how has it been for you knowing that on top of all the sports that you cover, you obviously get to cover so many athletes, and the main athlete right now that you're focusing on is Julia Scholing. Like you mentioned, she is over in Milan right now playing for Team Finland. She had a point today in Finland's game against Switzerland. So how has that been like for you, Jay, knowing that so early in your career, not even graduated from grad school yet, not have a full-time job, you are going to you are going to in just a few months. But how is that like for you knowing that you have already had the chance to cover an Olympic athlete?
It's incredible. Growing up, I love the Olympics. And like I said it before, I'm a soccer guy and I love the World Cup, but those don't happen often. You only see so many in your lifetime. And for me to be going through this program in my studies in this time in my life where I get to be a grad assistant and to have the privilege to cover women's hockey while we have an Olympian and a former alumni who's on the same exact team as her too, is it does I get to watch the Olympics with more of a purpose than I already was, being amazed by what these athletes can do. Is I'm watching for Julia Shaleen's line to come out, and I just watched her against Switzerland today, and there's things that I notice that stand out to me is like I'm starting to notice some of her like strengths too, and they have her out on the penalty kill all the time because she's very good on the offensive front of a penalty kill. And if you have an opportunity for her to score a shorthanded goal, God bless those defenders. Like I find myself rooting for Shaleen too and wanting her to succeed. And I've talked to her a few times. I even did an interview for the AHA for her where I called her and asked her some questions. And she deserves that just as much as anybody else does, if not more. Like she's worked hard for earning that spot. And I'm just so grateful I get to be able to cover an Olympian too. Is like that article that I put out. I've put out a couple articles about her already. But the one that I put out is that's the one that people are reading. If they're not reading, there was a feature in the Ice Garden that's a little more niche compared to all the Mercyhurst connecting family and everything like that, and everybody at Mercyhurst. But that's the one that they're reading is my article saying that Julia Shaleen's going to the Olympics, and even like I post everything on the women's hockey story, and I'll put stuff on the Hurst Athletics story as well. But those are what people are seeing is what I'm putting out and notifying them, and it's just cool. Like today, I got to live update an Olympic game. Julia Shaleen assisted Finland's 3rd goal on the power play. And I got to put out a tweet, and I already had a perfect caption in my head. It was like, Julia Shaleen on a power play. We've seen this before. Like, this is what she does. She has 30 points this season, 9 goals, 21 assists. I can name her stats off the top of my head because I'm just passionate about working with this team. And for her to get her first Olympic point, I'm pretty sure she's 20 or 21 years old. She was born in 2005. They showed a graphic between the oldest and youngest players on the Finland team. And it's crazy that she was born in 2005 and she gets to go represent her country on the international stage. And I get to watch those games with a purpose and write about it and tweet about it and make a graphic and all these things it's awesome. And one of the coaches texted me and was like, "Oh, Charlene might get the point on this power play." And I didn't even see the text till after. And I said, "Yeah, I already got it. I already sent out a live tweet." Like I'm on it. Like on Sunday, they played Czechia 3:10. I think it was 3 o'clock, and that was in my calendar. It was like, you know what, that's what I'm doing before the Super Bowl. Is I think my mom had asked me to go pick up pizza or something like that for the family because I was watching the game with family, and I was like, yeah, I'll go get it at 5:30 when this game's over because I want to watch Julia Shawnee in the Olympics because you only get so many of these opportunities as a player, but you only get so many of these opportunities in the sport industry to be able to cover an Olympian like that, especially from a country far away from it. Like I'm in the U.S. here covering a team in Italy who's from Finland. It's crazy. I'm so thankful for it. Um, and I remember when I found out that she made the Olympics, I immediately was like, yeah, this is awesome. Like we made a graphic and I I had to call Sholene, as I mentioned, for an interview, and I was just congratulating her. And she stopped by the office, so we could tell her that we wanted to highlight her for the Olympics and tell her to like tag us in stories and everything. And I was just like, congrats, like take it all in. Like this is literally a once in a lifetime opportunity. Like we hope that she makes it again in 4 years, whatever professional team she makes it to. But to be able to cover this now, and especially as I'm a grad student, as I mentioned earlier, working with other SIDs for hockey who are all full-time employees, they're all assistant directors and assistant athletic directors of communications, and they see me email and it says athletic communications graduate assistant in there. I hope I want them to be impressed and see what I do. But at the end of the time is I'm impressed with myself that I've been able to get to this point in my career and be able to cover an Olympic athlete and or two. I mean, Emma Newton and I follow her too and make sure that if she were to get an assist or a goal, I'm putting something out because she's an alumni of Mercy or she's family. Her jersey's hanging up in the ice rink. I see it every day, and her sister wears the same number as her, Sophia, and it's just awful. It's awesome, and I'm just I don't have any other words to describe how thankful I am to be able to cover Olympic athlete.
What was Julia's reaction when she did come to the office, and you did congratulate her?
She was just smiling, and she's super humble. Like I bet she doesn't brag about it to anybody. I mean, she should, and she probably does, but I'm assuming that she's not. She seems like a humble person, and she's just happy. She's all smiley, and she always has a big smile on her face, and is always thanking everybody. And I love that about her. And she has this like smiley like attitude off the ice, and on the ice she's competitive. You don't want to mess with her on the ice, and she's not very tall too, so you see her like you wouldn't expect it, and she's fiery and she plays with a lot of passion and heart. And she's a tremendous player, and I know Mike Sisti has already developed her a lot in the assistants in just a year, and I can't wait to see what she does her junior and senior year, having this Olympic experience and having former AHA Rookie of the Year and another 30-point season now. She's an incredible player. But yeah, and her story is really cool when she found out too, because she was in Germany visiting her boyfriend at a supermarket, and Mike Sisti called her and said, "Hey, you made the Olympics," and she just said she didn't even know what to say at first. She was so happy, and I was like, "That is an amazing short story." And I can only imagine how speechless she was at first.
She was in Germany?
Yeah, so they I don't I think where they had a Four Nations tournament. I can't even remember why she was actually because they had 3 weeks off for and I think she went home during the Christmas break
Oh,
maybe.
that the Finland.
And
Okay. Yeah,
yeah,
because they
yeah,
had a
and
month
her
off, so
boyfriend's
that
in
makes
Germany.
sense.
Yeah, that's probably it. Yeah. I was trying to think. But yeah, she was in Germany when she got the call from Mike Sisti.
Gosh, that is absolutely crazy, my dude.
Yeah, that's the
That is call of a
call of a
lifetime.
lifetime.
Call
Yeah.
of a lifetime. And you're that is insane. And what are the biggest keys of advice, Jay, that you do give to students when they might approach you and saying, "Hey, I think I might want to work in the sports industry as well."
I would just say take advantage of every opportunity you can. You're going to start out low. You're going to start out. No, I wouldn't. I don't. I can't speak for pay because I'm a grad assistant right now and don't have a full time salary job yet. But if you have to volunteer, do it for free. If you have to work a camera, work the camera. Maybe show up to every single game on the camera and just show your employers that you are consistent and you have a strong work ethic. But I would just say to be consistent with everything that you're doing, and you if you have a passion for it, you'll be right, you'll fit right in this industry. If you can put in the time and you have the passion, you'll be just fine. Because it's you won't when you're passionate about it, you're not going to think about the hours that you're working. In most cases, the money that you're making. I know I'm being sensitive of all the like economical and financial aspects of everything, but you just need to be put in the time and take advantage of every opportunity you can. Somebody if somebody needs you to step in somewhere, go for it. Learn a new skill, write that article. But don't be afraid to mess up. I've had typos in articles or game notes. Um, there's things that you're going to mess up and just learn from it. Then you're more likely to not do it again. I've stuttered on a public address announcing. I've mispronounced a name that may have seemed clear on a sheet. Even on a broadcast, I've stuttered too. Like it happens. You're going to mess up, you're going to fail, but it's what you do after that. I know that's even from a coaching standpoint too. It's like, yeah, you're going to turn the ball over, but it's what you do after. Do you put your head in your hands and stand still, or do you sprint back, skate back, run back after somebody to get the ball back? That's what coaches look for. And I feel like that's what employers in this industry are going to look for is how do you react to the mistakes that they're going to make? And there's going to be fewer as you go on, but there's always going to be mistakes. Nobody's perfect. And for me, it's how you react to it. And if I ever end up coaching soccer or something one day, my kids, those are the little things that I'm going to look for because I know those are the things that my coaches looked for when I played. And I have unique experiences. I played for a really competitive high school team too, that where I learned some of those things that even though I didn't play in college, and that's okay, is I've worked with enough college athletes and enough coaches that I have enough to get me by without having been a full-on collegiate student athlete. But for me, it's to take the final advice is really to just take advantage of every opportunity that you can, and things are going to go well for you.
And finally, one more question for you, Jay. It's just with all the phenomenal things that you have done in your career so far, and the many, 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 many more things that come for you, have you just sat back and just thought about, like, man, to think I did all that and I'm not even a full-time, well, you are obviously a college graduate, but it's just like now, you're still going through grad
Yeah.
school. It's just, have you just sat back and just thought about all the incredible things that you've done already in your career?
Yeah. So I actually, 2 months ago now, I took a trip to Tampa, Florida. Some of my friends were busy, and I was like, you know what? I think this would be great. Just take a 3-day trip. Wasn't too expensive. I had some money saved, and just be by myself and reflect and have fun, walk around the city of Tampa. But it was on that Friday night, and I think it was December 17th, 18th. Not sure. One of those days, the 18th maybe. I'm a big sunset guy, and I can sit and watch sunsets. And it almost looks like that scene in I think it's in Infinity War and Avengers, of Thanos just sitting there on his throne. He sets his helmet down. He's just looking out into the sunset. And obviously his circumstances weren't great for why he was sitting in the chair. But anyways, I was just sitting there like looking at the sunset, and I was just thinking about like the things that like have led me to that point in time and being present. And it's just incredible the opportunities that I've been given and to be in student government and to find this passion that I have for sports and to be able to still watch my little sister thrive in a high school soccer environment and be able to hang out with the friends and build the relationships that I have. I'm just so thankful for everything that's led me to this point. In working in sports, which is why we're on this podcast. Working in sports has helped me grow this appreciation for life that I have, and it's an ever growing appreciation for the little things because I'm focusing on the little things, but I'm typing in stats and articles and announcing and being meticulous, and that's spilled into my life, focusing on the little things and becoming the structured person that I am, like I had talked about earlier. So it's crazy to sit back and think about the things that I've done, and I'm only 23 years old, and to let me to be present because I know if I was able to do those things before, I can do them now and I can do them later. So I don't worry about doing them later. I'm so grateful and running out of words to describe it here.
Yeah, Jay, words just cannot describe how proud I am of you. Just seeing you grow as a professional that you are and just as a person over these past 2 years that I've gone to know you and just gone to work together and just call you a friend. It's just an honor. I'm so
I
proud of you.
appreciate
I
that.
can't say it enough with everything that you have done, with how you've helped me this season with hockey, how you make our broadcast at Mercy are so much better because of all the information that you give me, so I can say on the air for all of our fans. It's just thank you so much for coming on, my friend. This was such a great This was such a phenomenal episode, and I just know more, just everything that you have wished or dreamed for in your career is going to come true because I'm just so proud of you and your work ethic. Just the stuff that, for everyone listening, the stuff that this guy does, it's just unbelievable. And I'm just so proud of you, Jay. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much, Colton. I appreciate your kind words, and I'm grateful for our friendship and that we've been able to work together. And it's been an honor to be on your podcast. I didn't even realize what time it was, but I'm gonna go home and eat dinner and watch a movie or something before we get back to the grind tomorrow. But thank you again. It's really been an honor. And for anyone listening, young or old, I hope that at least something I said has inspired you or made you laugh. And that's really all I can hope for with the relationships that I build.